What's up, everybody? Jensen Cummings here. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. Today is Best Served Podcast 163. We're talking Lunch Lizard with Dan Sharp of Mesa County Valley School District. Dan, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. All right. Best Served Young. This is a new channel. This is week 3 of Best Served Young. We're focused on youth education, lunch programs, school gardens. That's really our focus, and you'll see us every Monday all the way up and through September. We're going to be talking on this channel. We really want to connect the dots between chefs, restaurants, hospitality, and what's happening at the youth level with our schools. Nobody better than Dan. So Dan, tell us a little bit about your work. Specifically, what is Lunch Lizard?
Great question. Lunch Lizard was born out of a need in our community when we noticed, like most school meal programs, we serve in our district at 40 schools during the school year, about 8 to 10,000 students a day that qualify for the free and reduced meal program. And I know as a former industry employee, I really didn't know what that was, but it really is there to help a lot of families that are struggling to meet their food needs at home and for their kids at school. And so the school meal program and the Lunch Lizard came up with the idea, well, how do these kids eat in the summertime? And so I partnered with the local foundation, the Western Colorado Community Foundation. They were great logistical partners, but they also provided me the funding dollars to be able to go out and purchase a Lunch Lizard food truck. And so we wanted to pilot the program back in 2015. And it's something that I'd read about some other districts across the country, but not a lot, several years ago that we're doing this. And I thought, as a former industry person, former entrepreneur, I really love this idea of bringing food to kids where they're at in the community. And so we did it. We did a pilot test. We served over about 5,000 meals over the course of several weeks that summer. And it was real fun. My staff loved it. The kids loved it. The excitement level of the kids seeing. In fact, I got to segue real quick here. We live in Western Colorado. And Western Colorado, for most people that don't know what that looks like, it's not the mountains. It's not skiing like most people think. We're in the high desert part of the state. And we're really close to Moab in Utah. Most people know what Moab looks like, all those rock canyons with the nice, beautiful red and sandstone colors. Well, anyways, we took that imagery and applied it to the graphics on our Lunch Lizard food truck and really made it kid-friendly and incorporated those graphics. And so the kids get really excited when they see us pull up into their neighborhoods. And a lot of the times, these neighborhoods are low-income housing, parts of our community that we identified and researched to make sure we were delivering the meals to those kids. It's a free meal program. It's paid for through our federal taxes. If you're not familiar, that's funded through the United States Department of Agriculture, and it's called the Summer Food Service Programs. Well, anyway, so getting the monies to be able to fund the food truck basically launched us into a several-year endeavor. We just completed our 6th year, or are now completing it. We went from 5,000 meals this summer during the pilot year 6 years ago to now we'll end up serving about 140,000 meals.
Unbelievable. Give us an idea how big the community is as a whole.
It is. The community is about 110 to 120,000. So it's the biggest city between Denver and Salt Lake City, but it's nowhere near the size of a metropolitan area.
Sure.
But it was a great.
Here's what I love. I gotta tell you. It very much feels like a reincarnation of the ice cream truck, like the energy that you think of when we were kids or even generations before, where just kids came flooding onto the streets because that horrible music was playing and it piqued their interest. And I think about that. I've seen this model that you're talking about. I've also seen farm trucks. I'm super fascinated in that, where they're taking fresh produce directly from the farm into this. So I really, really appreciate that. I want to talk more about what the work that you're doing, but you mentioned industry professionals. So take us back a little bit for you, because I know you kind of came up, in restaurants and resorts, hotels. So talk about your background a little bit. Where did it start for you? Where did you catch the hospitality bug first?
Well, I actually started, my parents, when I was in high school, bought a restaurant. And so if you ever heard of the Village Inn restaurant franchise, they bought one here in Grand Junction. And so when I was just a 15-year-old kid, my dad had us doing it all, washing dishes, bussing tables, cooking, all of it. And so then that transition, my father unfortunately had lost the business 5 years later. So when I was just going into college, or in college, here locally in Grand Junction, there was a hotel, brand new built, nice one. And so my brother and I applied there. We both got cooking jobs there. And then eventually they had a 4-star restaurant called the Jockey Club. And it was a chance for me to use my back of the house experience with cooking. And it was one of those few restaurants, you don't see these today, where you did tableside cooking, where you did flambe desserts. We made a tableside from raw ingredients. I mean, imagine taking the olive oil and the garlic, and you're taking a fork and you're smushing up the anchovies and
making the Caesar.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
So I got to do that in college. It was a great college gig, great college job. And then that transition, I got the bug then. I really loved serving people. I really loved serving the people that I worked with. And so that bug just kept going. I kept getting opportunities to move up in that industry, to the point where I was a general manager at a couple different hotels, and had worked in some really high-end resorts in Scottsdale, Arizona, one in particular called the Phoenician, back in the 90s when that was in its heyday.
I love it. And the transition then, right? You want to take your love for hospitality, for building community, for taking care of people, for feeding people, and apply that to, again, the model that you have now. When and how did that come about? When did you make the transition?
Well, I actually started with my wife. She saw how nuts it was for me to be working 70 hours a week after 20 years of being in that industry. And you know it, you sounds like you're in that, and the people that are watching today. And so, I was wanting to apply the skill set that I'd learned in private sector and industry into a different field. And that, being a director over a nutrition service department didn't initially catch my attention. I was like, do I really want to work in that kind of environment? I got to tell you, I'm so glad I made the move. I always think of it as a blessing, because it's the best of both worlds. Most of us that work in hospitality, whether we're a chef or whether we're a general manager of a hotel, we love, like you just said, we love serving people and we love helping out our community. And I can tell you that expertise is still needed. We need people that are out there, like chefs, and a lot of them are doing it, that start to look at being in a nutrition service program, because a lot of these programs are incorporating local produce. They're doing school gardens, and we need that level of expertise. And so, if anything of today's podcast, I hope to spurn the desire of those that are out there in industry that are maybe tired of working 7 days a week and being on call 24/7, to really consider this industry. It's a great industry. I love working with the people that we work with. And most of all, we get to serve kids healthier school meals. We get to help decrease childhood obesity. And more importantly, we get to help out with hunger in our communities. And so a lot of these school meal programs like ours have transcended from just the normal school lunch that we might remember 20 or 30 years ago or 10 years ago. Now a lot of these programs are like us. They're hunger programs, and they're collaborating with their communities. They're working like we do with local farmers. We actually have taken the school garden concept and expanded it and scaled it to, we work with a local extension office with Colorado State University. And we have kids that go up and do field trips there every year. They help plant in their 10-acre facility, and then they come back in the fall when school starts, and they actually help harvest. And then they get to see the whole full cycle,
start to finish
planting, and then they get to see that on their salad bar when they come in through the school meal line.
I want to touch on that a little bit more, because Amanda McCade, I know somebody I've spoken with, and is going to be on the show as well. Great work that they're doing. What you said at the beginning of what you were just talking about, like, there are so many different paths we're recognizing now for somebody in restaurants as a chef than just the ascension, the path that we thought it was to get to the level of elite chef, elite restaurateur. And so I think that's a very important thing to reconcile with at this moment, as we're saying, feeding people in this moment, in a COVID moment, just feeding other humans is the purest form of hospitality. It's the only thing that actually matters. We talk a lot about it's not what's on the plate, it's who gets it to the plate. And more importantly, what is on the plate matters because of the people in the farm that are producing, that are working. And so I think that's an important distinction that I really want to hover on for a second, because I want everybody listening to really, really pay attention to that. Let's talk about the food. You mentioned some of it. Let's talk about the food that's actually on the truck, because we have this notion of the food that was in these dingy cafeteria trays that are basically melamine. They're the same trays they have at prisons. Like, it just doesn't evoke some excitement for somebody on the culinary side, right? But when you're talking about a food truck, fresh and local, I mean, you're probably doing more local ingredients than a lot of high-end restaurants are. So let's talk about that, because I think there's some real opportunity for unlock there. What are you serving on the food truck? What's exciting right now this summer?
Well, a lot of it's mainstream type lunch entrees. You know, a lot of it's going to be salad. Well, first of all, let me say this. We provide fresh fruits and vegetables every day with our meals. I think that's first and foremost. So those of you out there might remember the My Pyramid when you were in school, and now it's the My Plate.
Yeah.
The My Plate is a much more simpler and easier to brand message of just making sure that kids get fruits and vegetables, and when they eat, to make half their plate and half their meal fruits and veggies. And so we're definitely into that. And so a lot of these kids get fresh fruits and vegetables. We're close to a lot of orchards. And so this time of the year, we get Bing cherries is an item that we'll incorporate into the lunches. And a lot of the times it's just good fresh produce, carrots, celery sticks, broccoli, cauliflower.
I just had Palisade peaches from the market this weekend. They're perfect right now.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah.
Right now, I don't like them when they're overripe and they're so juicy they just go everywhere. I like just a little bit of snap on the outside, and then there's that. Yes, they're so good right now. You're right in it. Grand Junction.
So cucumbers is another one. We're receiving cucumbers at this last couple of weeks. In fact, some of it from Amanda.
And I'm interested in it. You said cherries, and instantly I went to a friend of ours, Josh Nurnberg, at 707. I mean, the best chef and operator in the country. I'll tell that unabashedly to anybody. Just so smart, the way that they connect with their community, cleverness with the food, the way they invest in people. Anyway, he'll buy 16 cases of Bing cherries because he's got a relationship with the farmers. Well, that means his crew is deep hitting 16 cases of cherries. And one of the challenges that I know in school lunches is everything is moving to IW, individually wrapped. There's so much need for processing because a lot of the schools don't have the processing capabilities. So when you're talking about cherries, right away my head goes to, how are you processing that? Give us a little practicality now.
We actually just washed it. We felt like, there's a concern with kids that they might swallow that, but we really wanted the kids to have that real experience with the food. And so we were actually just washing it and doing the normal protocols, and then bagging it in our own little baggies ourselves, and then letting the kids just pick it up where they pick it and bite it off. Of course, we provide counsel and provide some coaching on that. But we wanted kids to see normal food, and to see here's what it looks like versus just, and you're right. The industry, because of what we're in right now, has really moved to a lot of individually wrapped, what we call IW foods. And there's a tendency to get more processed with procurement.
Yeah.
So we've really tried to keep with, we still buy produce. We still provide that as a normal day-to-day item for the kids. So they are getting that just packed in a little baggie.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. The impact. Truly believe you give a kid a fruit, a vegetable, you can change their life forever. The trajectory completely changes when they have a respect for food, when they start to think about the way that they interact with nature, with each other, the idea of breaking bread with other humans. Like, there's a lot of developmental things that I think change. For restaurants, I want you to hear this if you're in a restaurant. If you want kids in 10, 15, 20 years to care about the ingredients, the techniques, and the flavors that you're developing, we have to invest in them now. Because if they're eating nothing but processed salts and sugars and fats, they're not going to want the food that you're passionate about, that we're passionate about creating. So absolutely investing in kids today, it really matters. Talk to that. When you see a kid, just a cherry changing their life. I absolutely.
It is. Yeah, we see it all the time. When years ago, you might have heard of this, but we joined the Live Well Colorado Scratch Meal Initiative. It basically was an initiative funded by the Colorado Health Foundation, which provided funding for school districts like ours, where we were able to get some significant dollars. Ours added up to over $1 million, where we were able to buy the right equipment to do scratch cooking in all of our schools. And of course, we couldn't make that happen at 40 different little mini restaurants within a year. It took a couple of years of hard work, but yeah, we were able to incorporate salad bars and the nice stainless steel refrigerated ones, not the plastic Cambro versions. And I'm not saying nothing against that. It's just patient's part of it. I think food safety, keeping things at the right temps, important. But what's awesome was to see the kids as they see these salad bars and they see the spread out. There's usually 2 fresh fruits, 2 fresh veg a day. We typically provide where a kid can get a meal off of our salad bars. So they get exposed to weekly quinoa salads, wheat berry salads, other forms of grains to provide that protein versus just animal proteins. And so cottage cheese, eggs are on our salad bar. So it's not what you might think you'd see in a typical school meal classroom or cafeteria. But you're right. The response of the kid when they're in that young age, especially the elementary kids, kindergarten through 3rd, 4th grade, a lot of these kids are eating a high processed, high sodium diet at home. But when they get this at school, they're definitely telling their parents. We've heard testimonies from parents stating that my kid had a kiwi the other day, had never tried kiwi before, loved it. And now that's all they want.
I am such a believer of what you just said. Obviously I have a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old sons, and we eat everything, and I'm a chef. And so that's part of our thing. We have a rule. You don't have to like everything. You have to try everything. And it's gotten to the point where the Whole Foods, the fishmongers know them by name because they pick oysters and they eat raw oysters, my sons. It's like a proud chef moment. So I absolutely believe your children are adopting, but what you just said is very important. There's also an upline opportunity. Kids then are educating their parents, and kids are the best salespeople in the world. 100%. The toy industry has played off of kids for so long, selling the toys to their parents.
Well, so is the fast food industry.
The fast food industry.
Yeah. And so that's why we had to stay the course. It was difficult at first because there was a participation drop for the first couple of years as we started losing the older kids who were used to and wanted the high sodium, higher in fat type of a diet. And so when we started making the changes, but what's funny is now we've been doing this for 10 years now. It's great to watch that now these kids expect it. They expect to see it as they move up through middle school into high school. Where's the salad bar? In high school, we had missed inadvertently. And we had kids that were through the program all the way through grade school and middle school, and then wondered, well, wait a second, where's the salad bar that you guys have in all the other schools? So that was awesome.
The voice that they have to demand in the market works everywhere. It also works in schools. I truly believe that. We mentioned Amanda, the work that they're doing. One of the things that I thought was very interesting in the conversation with Amanda was the opportunity for entrepreneurship. You mentioned some of the work that they're doing, showing some of the students the opportunity, what it would look like if they were to start their own farm, start, producing their own products. I'm interested in that dynamic because I think there's a lot of opportunity for restaurants, especially to cultivate future leaders in the food and beverage industry, in the farming industry, in the whole food supply chain. And so I'm fascinated in that. What work have you guys done? What are you seeing? Where's the opportunity specific with working, with Amanda and the CSU extension? Kind of, you mentioned them going and then coming back and harvesting. Give us a little bit more in depth in that.
It's just the ability to make that happen versus independent school gardens, because in every given school, each different principal administrators or their PTAs all have different things that they're going to focus on, and unfortunately not always as school meals or school gardens going to be at the forefront, especially now with reopening schools coming up here in a couple of weeks and all the different regs that we have to comply with to have a safe in-person learning start. And so what we found is that with Amanda is to work with your local cooperative extension offices, whether it's CSU or other schools. If you're in a school meal program right now, they have the ability to be able to work with and coordinate and have some funding help especially people like Amanda, to be able to get kids out of the classroom, and teachers love this, to be able to get them up into a field trip and to go to a farm and really see where food comes from. That's been huge. And we're able to hit a lot of kids. So instead of trying to do a school garden at 40 different schools, she gets 8 to 10 different schools every year that go up and do planting and then harvesting there, and then see the whole full cycle when they come and eat it in the fall.
Big fan of that work.
Because she wants to scale this up to all schools.
I know.
And right now she's done a great job just to get to where she's at. She's a great entrepreneur. I know she'll make it happen. But I do want to say this: where you do have principals that really know and understand what we do with better nutrition comes from a better diet and more organic and more local sourcing and things like that. Our R5 high school here principal believes in that. And so much so that they have created their own half-acre school garden that is part of this alternative schools learning environment, where the kids at that school, I don't know if we've seen it yet. If you're ever in Grand Junction, we'd love to walk you over and have you take a look at it. Maybe that could be a separate podcast.
I like it.
Yes. Because that would be awesome for you to be able to show video of, here it is, and here's the principal, here's his passion, why he decided to start this. And we actually are buying from them produce to use in our school meal program. Besides the internships, the students that are at the high school level that get this experience can now move on to potentially consider ag or agriculture as another career path.
I like it a lot. I think that's one of the places early, and then as they go into kind of their future endeavors, there's two kind of touch points. And I think the whole process, but early on, and then getting them out there thoughtfully curating kind of the next ideas, the next businesses is a huge opportunity. We always like to touch on this. Good people connecting good people is a bedrock of this. Most of the people, 95% of the people on the show, have been acknowledged and recognized by somebody else. And so that's a really important part of this. And so we're talking now because Rainey Wickstrom, right, connected us, and Rainey, amazing mind for marketing. We have her and I are talking about a lot of different things, because I think amplifying the message is one of the most important things. There's so much work happening in the fields, on the schools, feet on the street, so to speak. Yeah, if we can't mainstream that into making it exciting for families, where it's not, or principals, administrators, to not just say obligatorily, oh, I guess we'll placate to the 4 parents that care about this, but to actually make it the matter of fact, the way things are, because there's an expectation. I think marketing and storytelling is a huge opportunity. So speak to that, and having somebody like Rainey, on board.
Yeah, Rainey, it's exactly it. I love your quote, by the way, because that's exactly how things get done. Lunch Lizard and never would have happened. Our kids going to Amanda's CSU Extension Farm never would have happened if they weren't people in those roles to help connect to transcend and do what we're doing in our school meal program. And Rainey's been part of that. She's been a mentor for me when it comes to communications and marketing. And with a lot of it, because of my former work in resorts and doing some of that work as a restaurateur, many of us as restaurateurs and chefs have to promote and brand and come up with messaging in our restaurants. And so to me, it was more natural. But Rainey, wow, I love the fact that she's passionate about taking things to make it more mainstream. And she's working with school districts across the state. She's worked with Live Well on helping to those programs to do a much better job of marketing that here's what they do.
I could not agree more. I think it's very important for us to find a way we always talk about, we just find a way to make it cool. And that's one of the things that restaurants are really good at. We need to find the power of good and the power of cool, and where those coalesce is the unlock. That's where the biggest opportunity is. This is really great. Dan, any last thoughts for us as we wrap up here? You and I got a lot more to talk about, I'm sure. We got to get out to Grand Junction 100%. But any last thoughts for today?
Well, I would just encourage any industry individuals out there to truly get involved and look at this as an industry, as a career path. I'm glad I did it. It got me out of the 7-day a week and challenges of that industry. And yes, you still work hard, but you can also have that balance in life. And I really am thankful for having that. Feel blessed to be in that. And so I would give it a consideration. Our school systems, our school meal programs, to be more organic, to be more farm to school, to be scratch based, need your expertise. And so that would be my pitch to you, is to really consider and look at school nutrition as a career path.
And get out on the food truck. A lot of chefs are looking to get on the food truck. Here we go. And you got access to a lot of good fruits and vegetables, as we mentioned. So Dan Sharp, really appreciate the work that you're doing. And you and I will be talking a lot more, I'm sure. But thanks for your time today.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Okay. Take care.
All right. Dan Sharp of Mesa County Valley School District. Again, this is our channel, Best Served Young, where every Monday for a couple months here, we're going to be focused on people working in the space, youth education, lunch programs, school gardens. I see massive opportunities for the restaurant industry, for hospitality professionals, for chefs to integrate into that ecosystem to really help it flourish. And I think there's a lot of opportunity for restaurants as well in that. So great segment today, great show today. Also, we are launching a channel called Best Served on Film. This is in collaboration with the Flatirons Food Film Festival. Amazing honor for me this past week to do just a little promo reel. So check out Best Served Podcast Facebook page, and you can see Sandor Katz, legend, absolute legend in food fermentation, wrote the book on food fermentation, The Art of Fermentation. It changed my trajectory for sure. So it was an honor to speak with him just for a couple minutes, and he's going to be one of the guests on the show. It's a 4-part series starting on August 12th on Wednesdays at 1 p.m. Central Time, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to be talking to different people, from Steph Ferrari, award-winning producer. We have the filmmakers behind James Beard, America's First Foodie, as well as Claudette Zepeda, a award-winning chef and storyteller as well. So definitely check that out. In the comments is a link to their website, because we're going to support them in fundraising. We need to support the arts. We need to support the connection of film and food, is a very big passion of mine. So definitely get into the comments. And I have a link to some virtual cooking classes that they're doing, which are super fun and exciting. And I want you guys to check those out. Got some amazing chefs. Hosea Rosenberg is doing some stuff. Kelly Whitaker is doing some stuff. And you got to check them out. So raise a little bit of money, learn, and support community. So check that out. All right. Great start to this week. Appreciate you all as always. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Cheers.